The Lee Group will be holding its 11th annual Small Business Workshop May 14th at 8 a.m. at the Corner Ballpark located at 1680 Michigan Avenue in Detroit. This year's theme is Thriving Through Uncertainty. Come and join the conversation as business leaders from across Detroit will be addressing this critical issue. This is a free event, and for more information, please go to leagroupinnovation.com. That's leagroupinnovation.com and click on the Small Business Workshop tab. All right, I'd like to welcome to this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee. As you know, this is your source for great information coming out of the great city of Detroit, state of Michigan, as well as across the country. And we always have a great lineup of guests each and every single week. And this week is certainly no exception. So I want you to sit back and relax, enjoy the conversation. As you know, we're slowly we are entering the election season here in the city of Detroit. And I have invited one of the candidates running for mayor is Saunteel Jenkins, who's a lifelong Detroiter. She's the former Detroit City Council president. She's a gun violence prevention advocate and the former CEO of the Heat and Warmth Fund, also known as STAL. Lifelong Detroiter, we got to say, she's a graduate of Cass Tech High School. And I think they just won the championship this year, didn't they? I'm not sure.
Did.
I think they did. All right.
Yeah.
So I think we'll give you a chance to get that shout out. But I also want you.
Right.
All right, there we go. So what we want to do is we're going to be inviting candidates in periodically to give their perspective as you're running for the mayor of the great city of Detroit. Saunteel Jenkins, thanks for joining me in the conference room. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well, thank you. So we are in the throes. We are in the throes of the election season already. It's hard to believe.
Yes. We are. I feel like I've been in the throes for a while, but time is going by pretty quickly. Yes. The mayor's is this year.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, Detroit obviously has gone through a resurgence, and we have many candidates that are putting their hat in the ring, running for mayor of the city of Detroit. A little bit later in the conversation, I want to focus on the business side, the importance of the small business community. But before we go there, give me your top three pillars, your policy platform, if you will, that's important to you as you're running for mayor.
Sure. Neighborhoods that are safe and vibrant. Economic opportunities for all, which includes putting small business back in business, and public transit are three of my top issues. If I could add four, it would be education.
Education.
Yes.
And and one of the questions that people always ask is, why run for mayor? I mean, what is it? What drove you to this point where you decided to make that choice to run for mayor of the city of Detroit?
It's where our city is right now, right? We have made a lot of progress. I was at the table at City Council during the toughest economic times in the city's history, and that was during our bankruptcy. We worked really hard to create a plan that would move the city forward. I'm proud to say that post-bankruptcy, the city has and continues to move forward, but things are still very fragile. And our next mayor will be the person to decide if we continue to progress and progress in a way that is inclusive, or if we will start to regress. And my fear is that if we regress, we won't see another turnaround in our lifetimes. And I feel, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that my professional background and my life experiences in nonprofit, for-profit business, education, and government have uniquely prepared me for this moment in our city's history.
What do you say to those people who are tuning in and listening and viewing us and saying, but we know Detroit's post-bankruptcy, and there's been a lot of progress in this city over the last several years. Most notably, the outgoing mayor gave his State of the City address, which essentially, he lauded his accomplishments, which is what you expected to happen. But talk to that person who's listening and saying, well, hey, I think the city's in the right trajectory, and what do we need to do to continue moving forward in terms of as he's leaving office and the incoming mayor is coming in? What should that person what should they focus on in terms of keeping the city moving in the right direction?
They should focus on making sure that families, children, and seniors all over this city get to participate in this resurgence, making sure that they're living again in neighborhoods that are safe and vibrant. They should focus on making sure that Black and brown businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses across this city are able to do business in a way that is economical and efficient. Right? They should focus on making sure that our finances continue to be strong and that we are not spending revenue that we don't have. They need to focus on how we continue to move the city forward and provide the services we've been providing without all the federal dollars that we've had the benefit of over the last several years.
And as we talk about the federal dollars, so we're going to segue into small business in a second. We know the situation. We know what's happening right now in terms of Washington, D.C. And we know that at one point in time, there was a proposal to freeze federal funding.
Mhm.
Talk about the importance of establishing or maintaining or building on that relationship in these fragile times with the president in Washington, D.C. I think a lot of people are concerned with the dollars we're flowing into Detroit and other major cities across the country. But in today's current uncertain situation, how do you feel? How would you establish that relationship or build upon that relationship with the administration in Washington, D.C.?
Mark, I am someone who has a proven track record of building coalitions and working across the aisle to get things done. As the CEO of the Heat and Warmth Fund, I'm proud to say that one of the first things I did in 2015 was create a water assistance program that was specifically for Detroit. But once I got that started, I started to lobby our state legislators and talk about the importance of water affordability across the state of Michigan. And I was able to get the House and the Senate. And at that time, the House was led by Republicans. And I was able to get them both to allocate $5 million to thaw for a statewide water assistance program. During Trump's first administration, one of the first things he zeroed out in his budget was LIHEAP, which is low income home energy assistance. Through the coalition that I was the president of the board of, which is NUAC, we lobbied Congress and we lobbied the Senate in DC, and the funding ended up being increased, not
Mhm,
decreased. Not
mhm.
only did it get restored, but it was increased as a result of the effective advocacy and lobbying that I did in partnership with organizations and companies around this corner who had a vested interest in making sure that families had resources to stay healthy, safe, and warm. So I've done it before, and I would do it again as mayor.
Yeah. Excuse me. So I remember the time when Coleman Young, so we have to go back to the fabled, legendary Coleman Young,
Yes.
and I will never forget the time. You probably remember those days too, when President Reagan got elected, and Mayor Young had a great relationship, obviously with Mayor Carter. I think back in those days, and maybe my thing is a little bit off. But as
Yeah.
soon as President Reagan got into office, there appeared to be some contention, right,
Mhm.
between his administration and the federal government or the presidential administration at the time. And I think a lot of Detroiters are thinking, we don't want to go back to those days, right, in terms of the federal funding, because it has been very important to the resurgence of the city. So I'm hearing you say that you've had a track record of reaching across the aisle to certainly work with the other side on both sides to get things done.
Absolutely. And that's what we have to do. And that doesn't mean you don't fight. Like when there is a fight that deserves my attention because it's hurting Detroiters, then it's also my responsibility to take on that fight, right? And to push back. And I will tell you that during the bankruptcy, Kevin Orr and I had a great relationship. Governor Snyder and I had a great relationship. But part of the reason that we were able to communicate and that we got along is because when we disagreed, I was able to say, I disagree. And here's why. Right now, if we say we want the same things, let's figure out how to get there. But on these 3 points, you're absolutely wrong. And I can't support it. And we need a leader who's able to call a spade a spade. If we disagree, we disagree, but let's find the common denominator. And sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes you're just flat out against Detroit and the people who live here, and I can't align with you. But it doesn't mean that I'm calling you names and that there won't come an issue down the line that perhaps we can work together on.
You're just joining us. We're talking to Saunteel Jenkins, and she's running a candidate for mayor for the city of Detroit. The election will be held later this year. Let's segue into small business development in the business community.
Mhm.
You all know me for my business acumen, I suppose, and I've been talking about small businesses for a long time in the city. In fact, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been on all the TV and radio stations talking about the challenges that small business community is currently confronting right now to this day. So let's talk about the importance of small businesses in Detroit. We know that we have 62,000 small businesses according to the 2012 U.S. Census data. That's dated, but that's the most recent information.
Mhm.
62,000 small businesses, making Detroit the fourth largest in terms of the number of small businesses. And so until I would suggest that many small businesses are afraid right now. There's a
Mhm.
lot of uncertainty because of what's going on in the economy. Talk to us about the importance of small business community, the small business community here in Detroit, and how you will help support their growth and prosperity in these challenging and uncertain times.
Yeah, first of all, small businesses are the backbone of this country and this city. So it's very important that we find ways to support them in these uncertain times. Mark, I'm not sure if you know, but I used to own a small business.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was called Petite Sweets because everybody deserves a little something sweet. It was baked goods, and I provided baked goods to stores and coffee shops around the metro area. So, as a former small business owner, I understand what happens when the cost of eggs go up from $2.50 a dozen to $6.50 a dozen, right? Because I don't get them in bulk like Walmart or Kroger or Meyer.
Mhm.
So the impact is much larger on me. The other thing that happens to small businesses, and I know this from being the CEO at Thaw, it's not as small as Petite Sweets was. Thaw is about a $20 million a year nonprofit. But when the cost of our health insurance went up, which is happening now, that was a huge hit on our bottom line. And then you start to make choices about priorities. So these uncertain times, I know are potentially devastating to small businesses, and local and state government have to be the front line of defense.
And as we think about that front line of defense, I want to kind of drill in more so on the funding side. I
Mhm.
remember my phone, Suntil, was blowing up in terms of people calling me to say, "What do I do? What do I do?" And I'm talking specifically about that federal freeze that was since overturned, if you would. It was walked back.
Mhm.
Um, but again, we know that access to funding is critical for
Yes,
businesses to survive and to thrive. So, with that as a backdrop, and the city again is on the verge of is continuing to rebound, which is great. The momentum is continuing to grow.
yes.
Talk to those business owners who are tuning in and listening and saying, but I still have that trepidation. Is the funding going to be there? If we don't have the traditional funding where I can invest and expand my business and hire maybe another person, I'm not sure what do I do. What do you tell that person?
I tell that person that in a Jenkins administration, you'd have a partner. The trepidation is completely understandable because none of us knows what will happen next. So the goal as mayor would be to create that cushion. It would be to make sure that there are resources and capital available for small businesses in the city of Detroit at all times, but especially during these tough economic times, whether it is a low cost or no cost loan, or whether there are grants that are available. We would work to be a resource for small businesses to help them understand what's out there and how to get through some of these tough times that may be ahead for all of us.
It's my understanding too, you have a master plan. You've been advocating for a master plan for East Detroit District. Talk about at a very high level the high points of that plan and talk about how that will help small businesses under your administration.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I think that our strategic master plan for the city right now, it's a citywide planning process and it's focused mostly on land use only. We need a strategic master plan that accounts for the fact that now the city has 7 districts. And in each of the 7 districts, the planning process should include residents, it should include businesses from that district, as well as planners and people from the city and council members. They
Mhm.
should all be included in this process. And once we decide, for instance, what District 1's strategic master plan will involve, everybody's on the same page. We know what we're looking for. And for instance, if District 1 says we want to build a movie theater in District 1, we're using our tax incentives to say to developers, our strategic master plan consists of this movie theater, 3 grocery stores, affordable housing, whatever is in the plan. If you can bring those things here, these are the incentives we're offering you. If you're a developer or a business owner who lives in the district, you get multiple incentives. If you don't live in the district, but you live in Detroit, you get higher incentives. If you don't live in Detroit, but you can offer what is identified in the strategic master plan, there are still incentives available for you. So we're being very intentional about not only development, but how we are utilizing our precious tax dollars and incentives. And everybody is on the same page because the process is transparent.
Mhm. And as we talk about small businesses as well, in the business community at large, I grew up in the city, and I remember at a very young age, I used to catch the bus everywhere.
Yeah,
From my house to high school to
that's
elementary
right.
school, it
That's
was just a fact of life, right?
right.
And the bus system was very reliant in
Mhm.
those days. And so the question is, as you under your administration, what are your thoughts about making public transit even that much more efficient? We know we're the motor city. A lot of us still drive cars,
Yeah.
but talk about the efficiency of the public transit system in Detroit.
Yeah. Yes, we are the Motor City. However, when we know better, we do better, right?
Yeah.
So we driving cars is great, but we also know that public transit is necessary because there's still over 30% of Detroiters that do not have access to a car. And I don't
Mhm.
mean a car, they don't even have access to a car. So we have to address that for many of our residents. But in addition to that, young people don't even want to drive, Mark, right? They want to be able to get on a bus, right? To go somewhere because it's better for the environment and you don't have to worry about the high cost of auto insurance. So we have to make sure that our public transit system is getting people to and from jobs, to and from school. I took 2 buses to school every day when I went to
Yeah,
Tech, right?
I took two as well.
Right? That's right. So we need to make sure that that's available for kids today, especially today, because we have fewer high schools. And the days of you walking 5 blocks to school, that doesn't exist as much today as it did before. I was recently talking to a business person who told me about all the jobs they have available at their warehouse, but it's in Auburn Hills. So the number of Detroiters that apply and qualify, but they can't get to work. That's unacceptable. And I believe that right now we have enough regional cooperation where we could together figure out how to create a comprehensive regional transit system that makes sense. And it's not just large buses, it is small shuttles that maybe go shorter distances. It is getting M1 from the river to Pontiac. There are multiple ways to make our transit system more effective and efficient for everybody.
As we wrap up, one final question. I'll give you a chance to give your final statement as well. Obviously, public safety is always the number one issue, always the top issue in Detroit and every place for that matter, a lot of places for that matter. Talk about your plans in terms of addressing public safety to ensure, safety for all the residents.
Yes. So I see safety as twofold, right? It's definitely addressing crime, but it's also prevention, right? Prevention is the best form of addressing any issue, whether it's health or safety. So it's community policing. And what I mean by that is definitely having more police available in the community, walking the beat, being in and out of businesses. We can have logs in grocery stores and gas stations and bakeries where, Officer Mark, when he goes in, he signs the log. And you can see Officer Mark stopped in 3 times this week, right? So it creates some accountability, but Officer Mark is just going in to say hello. It's not because you called me because a crime was committed. We should see police when good things are happening and when bad things are happening. So it creates more trust on both sides. It prevents crime. The other piece of prevention for me is making sure that people have opportunities. And our young people between the hours of 3 and 8, when it's most dangerous, have safe spaces and places to be where they can learn and grow.
This is awesome. I appreciate your time. And before I let you go, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say whatever you like to say, including your website, how people can certainly follow your policies and your path moving forward. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for this time, Mark. My name is Saunteel Jenkins. My website is saunteeljenkins.com, no H. And I believe that right now in this city's very, very important time, it's important that we have a leader that has built coalitions, has a record of building coalitions, and a record of experience for delivering in the nonprofit sector, the for-profit sector, government, and education. And I am that leader who is uniquely qualified and dedicated to this city and the people in it. So please vote for Saunteel Jenkins. Go to my website, saunteeljenkins.com. Thank you.
Well, Saunteel Jenkins, I want to thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy. You're getting across the city, reaching out to as many people as possible. We wish you much continued success and good luck as
Thank
you
you so much.
continue your trek for Mayor of the City of Detroit. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. It was great talking to you.
Absolutely good seeing you again. For all of you tuning in, we want to thank you for joining us on this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark Esley. Hey, I do promise one thing. I'm going to promise the weather at some point is going to warm up. It's going to warm up, so just stay patient. Because I say that because the Tigers are playing and they're winning. So anyway, stay warm. We will check you out next time in the conference with Mark Esley. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with as many people as possible. Well, make it a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Bye.
The Lee Group will be holding its 11th annual Small Business Workshop May 14th at 8 a.m. at the Corner Ballpark located at 1680 Michigan Avenue in Detroit. This year's theme is Thriving Through Uncertainty. Come and join the conversation as business leaders from across Detroit will be addressing this critical issue. This is a free event, And for more information, please go to leadgroupinnovation.com. That's leadgroupinnovation.com and click on the Small Business Workshop tab.